Okay, think back for a moment. Your own university time, or maybe what you know about picking a major. What comes to mind? Probably, these clear paths. Art, sciences, engineering. You choose one, and, well, that's your track. But what if those lines, those traditional boundaries are just dissolving? And really fast, we're seeing this huge shakeup, especially in China's universities. And that's what we're really diving into today. So our mission here is to unpack these big structural changes happening in how universities set up their majors, their professional systems. We've got articles, research, statements from universities, lots of stuff. And the goal is really figure out what this means for you, how education's changing, why, and what the future of learning and jobs might actually look like. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. And it's not just tweaking things around the edges. We're talking about a fundamental rethinking how knowledge itself is organized, taught, and even valued in universities. It's a real overhaul.
Right. And maybe the most visible example kicking things off is Fudan University. Their reforms, starting 2025, their president, Jin Lee, actually called it a major surgical operation. That phrase really sticks, doesn't it?
It does. It signals something big.
So get this. Fudan said they'd jump out of existing disciplinary concepts. That meant taking apart their entire engineering college, turning it into 6 innovation colleges.
Wow.
The whole thing. And for humanities, they cut enrollment way back from like 30 or 40% down to just 20.
That's a huge shift in focus.
Exactly. And the core change. They're moving from majors as the basic unit to projects. These projects can draw on one or even multiple fields, letting students earn potentially multiple degrees.
So less rigid paths.
Much less. Jin Lee basically said your initial major, the one you get in with on the Gaokao exam, it becomes less crucial. Once you're in, you put projects based on interest, on your ability. It's moving away from silos towards problems, I guess.
Yeah, problem-focused learning. And Fudan's assistant president, Chen Ran, he hammered this home. He said this project system gives students the right and ability to autonomously construct their own knowledge structure. That's powerful.
And they're backing it up with policy, right? Like free major selection within departments.
Right, and even free transfers between departments. They want to fully integrate this idea. And if you look bigger picture, Fudan, while bold, isn't really an outlier here. It's more like a really clear example of this national trend, this structural shift happening, sometimes more quietly, across China. It shows the direction.
That's a great point. It's not just Fudan. And you see it in just the kinds of new programs emerging everywhere. If you follow enrollment news, you see all these new, sometimes kind of wild-sounding majors popping up.
Things you wouldn't have imagined a few years ago.
Totally. Like in 2025, the Ministry of Education announced 29 new undergrad majors. Things like space-time information engineering.
Space-time information engineering.
And digital drama. Fudan itself added 24 new dual bachelor's degrees. Think social work artificial intelligence or French computer science and technology.
Wow, those are quite the combinations.
Right. And Nanjing University has a new College of Engineering mixing AI, automation, physical modeling, without the old labels like mechanical or computer engineering.
Blurring the lines.
Yeah, and Tsinghua, Peking University. They're also boosting enrollment in interdisciplinary stuff, new engineering fields.
So what does this do to the idea of a discipline? You know, the neat boxes we had, liberal arts, science, engineering. It feels like those definitions are just getting fuzzier. It's not just rearranging deck chairs. It seems like a recognition that real problems, real innovation, they don't respect those old boundaries. Universities are trying to catch up.
Okay, so that leads to the big question, why? Why this massive shift and why now? What's pushing it?
Well, there's a researcher at Peking University, Lu Xiaodong. He's studied these systems for like 30 years. And his take is pretty blunt. It's certain that for future undergraduates, studying a single discipline will no longer be enough.
Wow. Okay. And the data seems to agree.
Definitely. You look at the top new majors in China's elite universities, the double first-class ones. Between 2020 and 2024, 8 out of the top 10 involved interdisciplinary studies. Things like AI, big data, digital economy.
So students are voting with their feet, in a way.
And policy is pushing hard, too. Back in 2019, the Ministry of Education launched this whole new engineering, new medicine, new agriculture, new humanities initiative.
Right, I remember that.
Then in 2021, they formally made interdisciplinary studies China's 14th official academic discipline.
So legitimizing it.
Exactly. And just last year, a plan came out to optimize 20% of all major layouts by 2025, specifically to boost interdisciplinary options for strategic industries.
So top-down and bottom-up pressure.
Precisely. And a Ye Xiaoyang, a visiting professor at East China Normal University, adds another layer. He points out that the technological revolution, especially Gen AI in the last 3 years, has just rocketed ahead of education.
Yeah, the pace is incredible.
Right. Universities might still be organized around older knowledge structures, but what companies need, their talent expectations, are changing super fast. He talks about irreplaceability shifting. It's less about your specific degree barrier and more about the unique value you can create by combining things.
Value creation.
Yeah.
And a job market reflects that.
Hugely. There's data from KOS, Gao Aoshi, showing demand for cross-domain composite talent hit 37% in corporate hiring in 2025.
37%. And that's up from...
Nearly double what it was in 2022.
Wow, that's a massive jump in just 3 years.
It really is. And Lu Xiaodong, the Peking researcher, adds a couple more points. One, just the explosion of knowledge itself is creating new fields constantly.
Makes sense.
And two, there's this ongoing national conversation in China known as Kan Suesen's question.
The question about why China's schools aren't producing more top-tier innovative talents.
Exactly. There's a real national drive for innovation, and that inherently requires thinking beyond just one narrow specialty.
And this ties into careers changing too, right? Like my dad's generation, you got your engineering degree, you were an engineer. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the one major, one job for life model is fading fast.
Now people switch careers, fields get super specialized. You need to be adaptable.
Totally. There was a report, Center for China and Globalization, on youth employment. They projected a talent gap of nearly 120 million people by 2025 for just 20 new kinds of jobs.
120 million. What kind of jobs?
Things like internet marketers, digital managers, VR engineers, carbon emission managers, AI engineering technicians.
Okay, yeah, I can see how those all need a mix of skills.
Exactly. They all demand cross-domain knowledge. The old single-track majors just don't cut it for these roles.
So, okay, we get the why. But let's talk specifics. How does this interdisciplinary thing actually work in a classroom? What do these courses look like?
Good question. It's not just about sticking two department names together.
Right. So give us an example. Okay, one example might be a course called Computational Thinking and Information Literacy.
Sounds techy.
It is, but it blends programming, VR, AI, with applied social sciences. So students learn to analyze human needs, then design solutions, maybe even implement like spatial changes using the tech.
So it's tech skills plus understanding people.
Exactly. Building the tech, but also knowing how to interact with and serve people using it.
Okay, that makes sense. Another one.
How about original music education and community service?
Music and community service. Interesting mix.
Yeah, it came from combining community development and art education. Teachers and students use something called Music Life Review, using music to help preserve the oral histories of elderly people.
That's actually really beautiful, using art and, I guess, social work principles together. Yeah, these aren't just theoretical mashups. They're about taking maybe traditional culture or social needs and integrating tech or different approaches to solve real problems.
Finding synergy between fields that maybe didn't talk much before.
Precisely.
And Fudan, going back to them, they're all in on this with those 24 new composite programs like Finance AI.
Finance and AI. Okay. Or you mentioned social work AI.
Yeah. And Li Tian from Fudan had a great quote about that. He said, AI empowering grassroots governance and social services can greatly improve people's well-being.
Especially where talent is scarce.
Exactly. It shows that practical human benefit focus.
Okay, so the vision is clear. The examples sound promising.
But, yeah, there's always a but. How does this actually feel for the students living through it? Is the reality matching the vision?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Because implementing this, it's tough. Universities have real challenges reorganizing resources, getting different departments, researchers to work together effectively. It's a huge internal shift.
And you see that in student experiences. We heard from Wang Haoming, Fudan journalism grad. He was in their first 2+X cohort. That's their model, mixing a core major with flexible interdisciplinary stuff.
Right, the compositability idea.
Yeah, he was initially excited, thought he'd become this super versatile graduate. But he said mostly he and his classmates just felt confused, sometimes disappointed, constantly having to adjust.
Not so smooth.
Not always. He said the theoretical interdisciplinary courses felt limited, and he tried adding Korean language.
Okay.
But the course was clearly for advanced Korean majors, way over his head as a beginner. The instructor basically told him students from other departments shouldn't take it.
Ouch. So he dropped it.
Yeah, he gave up on that part. Felt like a dead end.
And others had similar
It
issues.
seems so. Liu Yun, a broadcast TV student, wanted to add museology. She liked the idea of field archaeology, photography,
Cool interests.
but the core museology courses, not open to students from outside the department.
Resource constraints, maybe?
Probably. She understood they had limited spots, prioritized their own majors. But she also saw the museology students going on field practicals every holiday, which she missed out on.
Yeah, that practical experience is key.
That's what she said. Without these, you always remain an outsider, let alone connecting it to your own major. It felt like she couldn't fully bridge the gap.
That sense of being an outsider is tough.
And generally, students reported way more academic pressure, just juggling more, feeling more tired. Most find it harder than a single major.
Which makes sense. You're covering more ground.
Plus, a lot of these interdisciplinary theories aren't fully baked yet, right? They're still evolving.
True. It's new territory.
So some students, maybe being pragmatic, ended up picking easier course combinations just to get the credits, rather than what truly interested them.
Yeah, the path of least resistance. Understandable, but maybe misses the point.
But it's not all negative. We also heard from Wang Zero.
Okay.
She admitted being exhausted and even resentful of her dual major at first. Didn't see the point.
Familiar feelings, maybe.
But she said after that initial phase, through reading, through practice, she did start to see the connections between her two fields.
So it clicked eventually.
Yeah. She actually mentioned debates with classmates about Socrates as one of her best university memories. It took time, but she found the value.
So it's a journey, not always an instant reward. That's an important perspective.
Definitely. So, okay, there are challenges, but looking forward, what's the ideal version of this? Are there examples that are maybe closer to getting it right?
Well, Liu Xiaodong, that Peking researcher again, he argues these reforms are actually bringing us back to the original point of disciplines. He quotes a Nobel physicist who said, "Science is inherently a whole. We broke it into departments because of our own limitations, not because nature is divided that way."
Like physics connects to chemistry, connects to biology.
Exactly. He described this unbreakable chain through all the sciences, even into anthropology and social sciences. It's about seeing that interconnectedness again.
Interesting. So breaking down walls is actually about restoring an original unity.
In a way, yes. And Liu Xiaodong talks about this re-mentions idea, basically re-emphasizing this holistic view. He thinks university reform should help students build their own dynamic knowledge structures, connect education to the innovation ecosystem, and actually lead innovation.
Ambitious. Is anyone doing this really well?
Tsinghua University Central Academy is often cited as a brilliant example.
Okay, Tsinghua, what do they do?
In 2021, huge curriculum reform. They created this core math science module, then offered 12 different technical modules leading to 12 double degrees.
Like,
Mathematical foundations of science, environmental engineering, civil, hydraulic, and ocean engineering, things like that. It was seen as really effective in plugging gaps that existed in many traditional majors, providing that strong integrated foundation.
so a more structured, intentional integration from the ground up.
Exactly.
And then there's this even wilder idea taking hold. Personal majors, students designing their own degrees.
Yeah. It's moving beyond preset combinations to letting students truly forge their own path. Meet some basic requirements, but otherwise, design your unique major.
It sounds amazing, like educational bespoke tailoring.
Kind of, and it's not brand new, but it's gaining traction. Indiana University had Will Shortz back in '74.
The puzzle guy.
The puzzle guy, he got the world's only degree in enigmatology puzzle studies. He designed it himself. Look where it got him.
Fair point.
Yeah.
Any more recent examples?
Definitely. Kyushu University in Japan in 2018 set up these art-science integration colleges explicitly to cultivate unpredictable talents for the future.
Unpredictable talents, I like that.
Me too!
Yeah.
Students there design majors around problems they care about. One kid from a rural background designed agricultural income stability elimination, mixing agriculture, economics, management.
Wow, tackling a real issue.
Another, a Malaysian student noticing bias in Japan, created intercultural, cognitive science, and bias.
That's incredibly specific and personal.
Right. And in China, University of Electronic Science and Technology in Chengdu, they've been letting students design personal projects for a couple of years. By 2024, 73 students had these private customized plans. Things like machine learning plus computer vision, or English plus law, or AI plus drones.
So cool. Students really mapping their own niche.
And when Liu Xiaodong heard about these, he apparently got quite emotional. He said something like, Aren't these the creative talents I always hoped we could cultivate?
A real validation of the idea.
Yeah. He stresses the point isn't just to force different fields together, it's about opening doors, giving diverse people more ways to find their path.
Creating possibility.
Exactly. He uses this beautiful metaphor comparing the richness of knowledge, of student potential, to a landscape, a symphony of unsurpassed richness, like mountains and oceans, storms and climates, the resonance of all trees and plants.
Wow.
A place where everyone can build their own structure, connect things in their own way, based on their interests. It's a really inspiring vision.
It really is. Makes you think differently about what education could be. Okay, so let's wrap this up. The main takeaway seems to be those old, rigid boundaries in education. They're crumbling. We're moving towards something much more fluid, interconnected, adaptable.
Definitely.
And remember, this isn't just some academic theory. It directly impacts how you, or maybe your kids, will experience university and build a career.
Absolutely. So, thinking about navigating this, maybe a few practical thoughts.
Yeah, like some actionable tips.
Okay. First, just be open. Don't get too hung up on changing major names or blurry lines. Remember, disciplines were meant to open up understanding, not build walls. See the fluidity as an opportunity, not just a risk. A chance to rethink what and how you learn.
Good point. Opportunity, not risk. What else?
Second, expect growth to be messy. The path forward won't always be obvious. Building these interdisciplinary skills takes exploration, adaptation, probably some trial and error. It's a process.
Okay, embrace the messiness. And finally,
resilience. You're likely going to face confusion, maybe some frustration, like those students we heard about. Try to keep a long-term view. That's how you build real judgment, how you construct that unique knowledge structure that's truly valuable.
openness, growth through messiness and resilience.
Got it.
So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is this. Given this changing world, how might your own knowledge landscape grow? What unexpected connections could you make on your own learning journey?